this is Nessa from Infinitely Zero's channel. Today is Sunday, January 14th, and I wanted to show you guys real quick on something I'm currently working on, making a small blanket. I may or may not donate it yet, depends if I finish it in time. So I'm doing this on the circular knitting machine. I am using the Mandala Bonus. This is the colorway Giant. So how I'm going to make this, it's going to be either 5 or 6 tubes. I can't remember right now at the moment. Put together, this is one tube. It's 180 rows for this tube, and that makes about 41 inches. This is the waste yarn on the tubes that you add on to be able to take it on and off of the machine more easily. So I use that on both sides because the stitches are live when you get it off of the machine. And for the row that you cast on, I add one row of contrasting yarn color. So you just pull that and you can easily remove the waste yarn because the cast on edge is harder to do. And you close the tubes before so that the stitches aren't live. This is an example of what that looks like for closing the tube. And I was going to try to see if I can show you how to do that on camera. I tried to film this video earlier and the camera angle was horrible, so I just deleted the film. So that's why this other end is closed. Anyways, I'm using a 5mm Clover soft touch ergonomic crochet hook. What else do I need to say? I did some videos earlier today using my yarn winder, so check those out, and I have a bunch of other videos for yarn hauls. So if you like the content here on my channel, please click like and subscribe. This is the first one where I'm actually gonna try somewhat of a tutorial. So we'll see how it goes, right? So when you do this to close these tubes, I like to line them up. Well, actually first, when you get it off of the machine, it's facing this way, so it's the wrong side, so it's inside out, and this is the right side, so you need to actually flip the whole tube inside out. So I already did that. And I also leave a good amount of yarn to begin with, because I use that to close the tubes and then later on to seam the tubes to the other tubes. And I really don't like to have to cut yarn and calculate all that. So right now with this one, this is still attached to the rest of the cake. Oh, sorry. So I wanted to show you real quick how easy it makes it to have this one thread of the contrasting color for when you start, to be able to remove the waste yarn. And for my waste yarn, I do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's I do anywhere between like 8 to 10 rows, and I reuse this. So that's why I like to close up my tube and on both of the sides, so then I can reuse this yarn for later. So to remove this, okay, let's switch this camera angle and see if you can see me better. Sorry, you won't be able to see my face when you're seeing my hands. And when you hear those nails clicking around, that's my doggy. He's walking around. Here we go. So you click under there to get this part. Well, I should explain before I undo all this that I went between the rows back and forth and interlace them. That's how you close it, and then you get to the point. I start at the row opposite from where the beginning and the ending is of when you get on the machine. So all these blue top ones here are the stitches of the first row, and these are the stitches you know, of that last single contrasting color of the waste yarn. And this is the stitches right here of the last row of the waste yarn, of the main color waste yarn. So you grab this and you pull. And I usually try to find where my shorter end is, or I just pull till I get one out, and then you see it just starts removing itself. Hope you can see this okay. There's other tutorials here on YouTube where they show this better. Sorry. I have a tendency to like lose my hook, and then I'm like, where did I put my hook? And then sometimes I end up sitting on it. The blanket I have back here is fleece. A good friend of mine gave it to me. So I keep it on my recliner because I get really cold, and to keep my hooks from falling through the cracks of the recliner from the edge of the seat. So sometimes this gets a little tight like that. So if it does, just sort of, you know, play with your stitches to loosen it up a bit. And then I like to get my hook in here and sort of loosen some of that. Sorry if some of this goes off camera. I still need to figure out the camera angle that works the best for this, or how to situate the camera. So yeah, sometimes you have to kind of mess with it going the other way. And pretty much you're removing all of this solid color, contrasting color that you only did one row of. So then you can remove the waste yarn and then your stitches are closed. So I had a hard time joining this over here when I was working this end. So that's probably why it's giving me a little bit of a hassle here. So my edge is a little tangled there. And if that happens, then you just kind of have to work the yarn through some of the stitches here. So I did a poll on my community post asking concerning stitch along, like if you guys might be interested. You know, I'm trying to figure out what content to do for the channel. Sorry you can't see my face right now as I'm talking. Anyways, for what content to do in the channel, and I put some suggestions there of different options. One is that, you know, just choose someone else's crochet stitch along that's currently going on. There's quite a few. Somehow they like to start a lot in the beginning of the year. Another option is, you know, that I choose something that's Tunisian crochet, which that one didn't get any votes. And then, oh, you see, I had a little knot there. So that's what happened. There's like a little knot in this gray yarn, and that was holding the whole thing up. And now it's just gliding just fine. Anyways, so yeah, you see that little knot's getting stuck in my stitches. And the third option being, there's this book that I mentioned that I put a picture of in the poll. You know what, let me see if I can undo that. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to go through this other side here. So you just play with this until you get it all removed. Anyway, sorry. The book is The Skill Building Crochet Skill Builders Workshop, and she has swatches in there, and then towards the end 4 panels. So I was thinking I can do the swatches and show you guys the finished product. Because of copyright and all that, I can't show you the actual information of the written text of the stitches. So I believe that anybody that wants to participate in that stitch along will need to buy their own version of the book. I think for some certain stitches, probably simple enough where it's not like a huge deal. We can be like, hey, it's bobbles, right? Like, this is a link to a website that tells you how to do bobbles, and let's do 10 or 15 in a row, and make a swatch. But there's other complicated stitches in there that might not work. So I've been trying to think of a plan of how to best do that, if that's what folks might prefer to do for a stitch along. But please let me know your opinions or comments or thoughts on the whole thing. Yeah, because I've been trying to figure out how to best do that and not infringe on the author's work. And also, it's not my pattern, so it's not my place to do video tutorials on someone else's work and someone else's patterns. So not going to do that. So yeah. But there is crochet along that started, I think it's Cozy Rosie UK, where she's doing with another designer a mood blanket, and it's like one option is like a blanket, the other is granny square, and the other is 2 shawls that are different shapes. And you go tracking your mood, and then depending on that, you are the stitches that are used, and then you go doing that throughout the year. I still haven't finished the Stitch and Scream along cowl. You see, and this is where the knot is, so I'm going the other way. And you see how it just sort of unraveled itself, which is so cool. And then you have a finished edge. Anyways, Out Knots was doing that for last year, but all the videos on that are still on her site. I haven't seen a video yet for her to put up, and then I keep this for next time. And the same with this here. I haven't seen her put up a video for joining the blanket, but I'm behind. I'm only on like the 3rd square for that stitch along, so it wouldn't be that hard for folks to, catch up if they wanted to. Another one is the that's coming out is one the Yarn Addict is doing a 6-week crochet along. One is squares, and then the part 2 is a blanket. And this is how the edge looks, the closed off edge. Yeah, so there's that. Mikey and Janine from the Crochet Crowd, they just came out with a stitch along. And sometimes on Boxing Day, I don't remember what it's called right now. I could put the link in this for this video there. So sometimes you have to check and make sure you don't have any dropped stitches, and that here when you were alternating and closing them off that you grabbed them all. Here it looks like I may have missed one, so then you just go ahead and grab that and just loop it through with your live yarn and one of these edges, and make sure it's closed off so it doesn't unravel. Because it's knit, it doesn't it'll easily unravel your whole row. And that's kind of how you do a drop stitch scarf. By the way, you do a tube like this, you close off one end and you don't close the other, and you go unraveling some of the stitches, and there's some tutorials here on YouTube for that if you're interested in making that. Yeah, so then I just grab that and put it through. And thanks to one of my close and dear friends who was like, don't give up, try and film the tutorial again. You know, so this is my third time trying for tonight. Yeah, so those are the ones I remembered. There's also another YouTube content creator that's actually doing a mosaic blanket crochet along, but she's using Abby McIntyre's pattern. Folks chose the 4 seasons, so I actually had already purchased that pattern. You have to purchase that pattern on your own. That's not a free one. And I think this person on YouTube, what she's doing is just answering questions, just showing her progress and answering questions and not sharing the pattern. I'm trying to think if there's any other cows going on right now that I think some folks have mentioned like different sort of make-alongs and things like that. But if you know of one, oh, and Knitter Knotter just started her Tunisian in the round crochet along, but that one looks a bit complicated. I want to do it, but I have some other Tunisian crochet alongs from her, like the one from 2021 that I haven't finished yet, so I can show my progress on that. But if anybody wants to do squares on that, and she has one's from 2022 that's a little more complicated. And then her one from last year, which was actually Tunisian mosaic crochet, and she has those charts. Well, she has the pattern still on her blog. The charts are no longer available. I was able to get those charts when she would release them, because she would release them for 24 hours at a time. And that's what she's doing now with her Tunisian in the round. She releases the chart for, it has a date for each hexagon as it goes on throughout the year, and that's when you can grab it. So yeah, but that one is free. I mean, you can still read the pattern for each hexagon there, even if you're not able to get the nice PDF chart. Okay, so going to the other edge, let me show you the tip. I figured I would talk about that stuff, you know, while we were doing that. So you see, this is where the beginning is, the beginning and end. This is the end of the tube. So you see, these here, the green ones here that are by themselves, those are the last stitches of the rows of the waste yarn, and this yellow is the first stitch, the stitches of the first row of your actual yarn. So I line this up, those two together, and this other edge. I start on this edge, which is opposite from the beginning edge. Let's try to position this. Here we go. Closer to me is better. You guys see better. Sorry, I was meaning to repaint that nail and I didn't get around to it. So you start here at the edge. When you fold it in half. So there's this 2 and 2. And this is a 5mm H hook, crochet hook. So you grab that, and then you grab this one, and then you hook this underneath. So you're starting from that side. And what I like to do is I like to flip this so that this edge that I'm working is on my side. And then you go alternating rows. So now you hook here, hook this over here, and go underneath, and you go interlacing, and you grab the next one, which is this one, and you just pass it underneath, and now you go to and alternate to the other side and pass it underneath like that. So maybe this will be easier to see if it's sideways. But pretty much you go doing this one side and then the other side with that first oops, with that first one for each. Did this not record? Oh, I think it is recording, sorry. And sometimes they tighten up and then you just, you know, gotta mess with this a little bit and yank and things like that. So go to the next one and alternate. And the next one, and I use the Sentro 48 machine. You can also use the Addy 46 a needle knitting machine too. And I mean, in this concept for closing the tubes works with any size of those circular knitting machines. Same concept. Like when you do the beanie is obviously open and then you close the edges, but you don't close the tubes. So, but you close the tubes. I like to close them when I'm making something like ear warmers headband kind of thing. Or when I'm doing my fingerless gloves and then they're double knit. And then I seam up the side and leave the space for a thumb hole. And depending how many rows I knit is how long I want them on the hand and sleeve. So usually if I'm using a worsted weight 4 yarn, I do 45 to 35 rows. And if I want a sleeve, it's like 55 or 65 rows. Anyways, I would recommend that you write those down when you're doing the things and whatever works for you and your yarn and your tension and your gauge. This was 180 rows for this tube, which was 41 inches. This Mandala yarn is a DK weight 3, which is why I'm using a smaller hook size. A 4.5 millimeter hook would have worked too. And usually these tubes for this off of the Sentro 48 machine, measure 7 inches wide. So for example, if I want a 35-inch wide blanket, I would need 5 tubes. So you just multiply the 7 by 5. And here we're almost finishing up. And then I'll finish up and I can show you how easy it is to take the waste yarn off. You just kind of unravel it off. And you just do the same concept and just put your yarn through at the end, which actually I'm still attached, so I probably won't be able to do that on this video until I cut the yarn. So I'll need to calculate how much yarn I need for seaming. See in here when you get closer to the edge. Get there. And I'm sorry I don't have a camera that does top-down cool tutorials like everybody else. I think that's probably what they're using. Or they have some stand. My phone is like out of space and it keeps stopping the videos, and so just doing the best I can with what I have. Sorry I didn't alternate in that row. I was on the same side. So this side, then go to the next side. Over here. I like to usually loop in you know, my yarn that I was knitting with at the end after I've done these like corners. And here, because I just grabbed that stitch, then I can pull this out of there. If you do that before, these stitches are live, so you might run the risk of unraveling like a whole row down. Not fun. That's happened to me before. And then that's there, which is this one here. I don't know if you see it. These edge ones kind of tuck in. Some people recommend that you put stitch markers on that beginning and ending stitches of that row so that you know, but I don't do that. I've done this so many times, it's like, meh, it's fine. I like to grab this one too here. It's kind of hidden in there just in case. And you can count these and make sure that you grabbed all of them. You see here was that one that didn't get grabbed. There you go. And then you would put this through that loop. And I'm going to keep this held on with the hook right now so that I can unravel it and show you guys. Oh, so if you actually zoom in, you can see when you look at it like that, everything should kind of, that was attached with the green, should be sort of interlaced like that, like if it was like shoelaces. And if anything is like missing and not interlaced, that means you skipped it. So I would just suggest that you unravel it, go back and grab it. Or you can also get your sewing needle with some yarn and make sure you close it off if it's already the point that you already took this off, you know, that you already took the waist yarn off. So you could still fix it as long as you're careful with it and don't pull. So we're going to leave that looped in there for security for right now. And then because this is not the cast on edge, you can just easily unravel. Yeah, I don't think I have a stitch marker handy right now. You can just easily unravel this like that. It's so much fun. And I would suggest that you keep the waist yarn and you use it for other projects. So that's what I do. I keep it like in a Ziploc bag or next to my work area. It does make a bit of a mess, but as long as the dog doesn't chew on it, which he hasn't, we're all good. He did try to chew on my furry yarn the other day that was in a skein, but poor guy, I think he thought it was a plushie toy. Because it looks a lot like his little toy sheep. Toy lamb. He has one. Whoops, the hook fell out. But we can pull that there. Oh, it's this one, yeah. So makes it easier like that, and then you figure out what that goes into, and you go removing all of this. Well, it just easily unravels when it's the ending row, which is why you should do a few more rows than just 3 when you're before you cast off, unless of course you just grab a needle and just cast off on the machine by just closing the stitches on the machine itself with the yarn you're working with. That works too. And then this is your done row. And then you just gather up all your waist yarn in a way that doesn't create you a tangled mess for you later, because then you have another headache on your hands, right? So yeah, I'll play with this off camera. Here we go. And yeah, thanks for joining. And if you like the content here on my channel, please click like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, have a great time. Until next time, I probably have a few yarn orders coming in. And I attended a few live streams today and the last few days, so that was fun. So check those out. Yeah. And yeah, I'll show you the finished blanket. If I feel up to it, I may or may not show you the joining of the tubes. But for the blanket, you just do 5 more tubes of these. It's you're knitting on the circular knitting machine in tube mode, which is the T. It has a switch on the side of the machine. Panel mode is flat, so that knits differently. And yeah, close off each tube of the 5 tubes, exactly like you did this. And then seam them together, and then you decide when you're done with that if you want to add a border or not, right? So, okay, that's it for tonight. Thanks. Bye.